Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online build video with me, Sherman. Today, guys, I'm bringing you something a little different because I usually don't do DPS builds, but somebody asked if I would release this build that I showed for hybrids, and I decided I would. So, let me go ahead and eat my food because I've been doing a little bit of too much testing on this guy. So, this is a hybrid DK DPS, and it's more something that you would use for just for fun, or if you're in a guild that's pretty laid back, pretty lax on what you play. It's going to be something you can use in a competitive in-game guild that's more about leaderboards and stuff. This would not be allowed. So I'm warning you now. But it is a pretty fun build. It's pretty cool. It is for PvE. This is not a PvP build. So you can play it either in PvE or you can adjust it to play it in PvP. I guess, it's really up to you. But let's go ahead and take a look at it. We are a Dark Elf Dragon Knight. Dark Elves make the best hybrids because of their 9% max magicka, 6% stam. But on a DK, they make really exceptional hybrids because they do get that 7% fire damage, which plays well into the hybrid. Now, you're going to see that our magic recovery is really low, our stam recovery is really low, but don't stress it. Our pots and our rotation kind of keeps that at bay. We do have some struggling points there, but it's not massive. You gotta master this rotation. I'm not good either with rotations either, guys, so we'll get to that when we get there. But as you can see, 25k magic, a 26k stam. We do have a 2655 weapon damage with an 1850 spell damage, but when we're fully buffed up, when we're fully buffed up, we go to 3,303, 2220. We actually go to almost 3k spell damage with 4k weapon damage. Really well balanced there almost, because you don't want to try and get them equalized too much, especially with the build like this. It's one of those things that's interesting about hybrids is hybrids can play with sets, so you can hybridize with a set, or with gear sets you can hybridize with skills. Now if you choose to hybridize with gear sets, you just basically build for increasing that kind of damage that the sets do, and then you build for increasing the penetration of those sets. So, alright, let's go ahead and get into this. 25k magicka, like I said, 19k health, which is a little overboard, but it's perfect because if you're with somebody who has Ebon armor, you're going to end up with about a 21k health, which is really good for survivability in dungeons. We do have a 26k max stamina. Not the greatest area, but we are using 2 bloodthirsty, or 2 infused, 1 bloodthirsty on the jewelry, so our stats are going to show a little bit lower here. Magic recovery coming in at 596 and 668 on the stam. With the hybrid, you do want tri-stat pots because you want that extra recovery on both sides to kind of help carry you with your rotation. So spell resist is coming in at 15,224 and physical resist at 11,666. Not good, but could be better. Down here we are using the Lover Mundus Stone, and we do use Tri-Stat Food. Tri-Stat Food is the best for this, guys, because you are playing a hybrid. You need those dual stats. Now, going into the gear, this is where things get more into an interesting thing with how this hybrid works. Now, again, I have to give credit where credit's due. I have to give credit to Christopher ESO and to another person who originally designed this build for PvP. I wanted to see what I could do with it in PvE, and I have to say I think I did a pretty good job with it. So going down here, again, tripods are going to be your friends with this build because you need that extra recovery. And you can use the staff on the back bar. You don't have to use a bow. And then dual stat or tri-stat food, I passed it up right here, is going to be essential to any hybrid. So moving on to the sets, we are running a Vulcan Scoria in heavy and light here. The heavy helm is infused. As you can see, it does have tri-stats, and there is a reason why it's infused, guys. It's because we need to get as much in our stats as possible. We are only running 4 divines on this build, 3 infused, but we do need those extra stats to make a hybrid work. Moving on down here, we do have two throw. Two throw is hands down best in slot for this particular type of build. The reason why is because we're not using pots to give us major savagery or major sorcery. You don't want to do that. You kind of want to use your pots, like I said. You want those tri-stat pots. You need all 3 resources, you need stamina and magicka coming back. So two throw is going to give us our major savagery. We do have major sorcery at all times because we have enter light on our bar as well. This is a 5-1-1 setup, so we're using 5 medium, 1 light, 1 heavy. So on the two throw though, the 2 bigger pieces and the helm on the Vulcan Scory are infused with tri-stats. The smaller pieces are a little different. On the shoulders and the gloves, we do have max stam on divines, and then on the belt and boots, we have max magicka and divines. Now, somebody asked me once, why don't you use tri-stat there as well? Because we don't need more health. We need more stamina and magicka. If you have stamina and magicka, or the tri-stats in here, you're only getting 100 and something stamina and magicka. And in this case, you're getting 351 magicka. So you're getting double of what a tri-stat would give you in magicka from one of these. So one of these is going to give you double the magicka, double the magicka here. So you're actually getting more. And then over here, you're getting more stamina, double the stamina as well. So you actually end up with more. 120 something, or 175 more here. So now going down on to the jewelry, we are running 2 infused with weapon damage and a spell damage. Yes, you have to do this, and weapon damage, spell damage. And then the third one, we are using a necklace that is bloodthirsty, but we have a potion cooldown. You can put a weapon damage on here, but you're going to really wish you put a potion cooldown. And I know the weapon damage and everything seems kind of low, but in the end, it works out. And like I said, we are using the Lover Mundus Stone. So we do get that greater penetration there. We get 3,577, and with our CP we get more. Moving on to the weapons, we are using dual daggers on the front bar. This is the Way of Fire set. This is the other set we're running. This gives weapon damage, max stam, critical, and then when you deal damage with the weapon damage or weapon ability, you have a 20% chance to deal an additional 5,400 flame damage once every 2 seconds. So pretty much every time you do a light attack, you're going to proc this. So as long as you're doing your rotation right, every time you throw a light attack, you're going to proc this. So, or every time you throw an ability, you're going to proc it. On the weapons, we are running 2 infused. We are running a magic recovery or absorb magicka on the offhand, and on the main hand, we're running a flame damage. Now this will hit upwards to 7k with this, so it's really powerful, and this will proc for about 4k when it crits. I'm almost 5 when it crits, and it will give you magicka back. So, and then down here we are using a Bow of Fire with weapon damage enchant on it. Really good to get that weapon damage coming in. Now remember, with the changes on PTS, this will not PTS doesn't have the changes that are on live, so this will still proc even on twin slashes. So it's gonna skew my DPS on my rotation. This here is going to proc on twin slashes, so I'm gonna get both of these procking on twin slashes, which kind of sucks. Let me go ahead and charge up my weapons here. Alright, so yeah, you want to use infused on all the weapons. Now you can go Nernhound if you want on the main hand with the flame enchant. You're just not going to be proccing that flame enchant as much, but you got to make sure you're doing a really good rotation because you need that 461 magicka coming in. Otherwise you can't sustain. So, alright, so moving now on to the skills, starting with our passives. Make sure you get all of your class passives. Even if you're not using any skills in it, just get all your class passives, because you never know if there's going to be a skill that you might need for certain situations. Weapons, dual wield, make sure you get all the passives. Bow, all the passives. And then if you're using a destruction staff, also get all the passives. Moving on to armor, light armor, you want the top 3. Medium armor, all of them. Heavy armor, the top 3. The reason why you want the light armor top 3 is you want evocation, you want that magic recovery, you want that reduced magic cost. It's small, but it helps. And then on this side, on the heavy armor, you want all these because you need all this extra stuff that it gives. Alright, moving on to soul magic. You do not have to be a werewolf with this, guys. You could be a vampire if you wanted to, but do not be a werewolf with it. Bad idea. But soul summons and soul lock are really good. And then moving on to guilds. Fighters Guild, you want to get them all. I was going to put Evil Hunter on this, but I changed my mind because of the Inner Light. It works a lot better with Tooth Throw. But get all your passives here because you are using Rearming Trap on the back bar and you're using Dawnbreaker on the front bar. Undaunted, you want the 2 passives, and then Racials, all the passives, especially if you're doing this with the Dark Elf. Like I said, other races can work, a High Elf can work, but you're not going to have it. You're not going to be more as equalized in the Magicka stamina department because you're only going to get 1% more in Magicka, and trying to offset that with the lack of anything else, it doesn't really pay off. Now, if you're playing an Argonian or you're playing an Orc, or you're playing a Nord with this build, or an Imperial, you're going to end up with way too much health, more health than you need, but you're going to have really good stuff. A Red Guard doesn't work as well either, because they have too much stam, and not enough to compensate for the lack of Magicka. So they will always have more stamina than they will Magicka, and trying to offset that to get more equal to what this thing has is going to be really hard. Alright, moving on to the crafting. You just need alchemy, medicinal use, and provisioning, gourmand, and connoisseur. And these, remember guys, these are very important. These are probably the 2 most important passives sets you can get in the game. Gourmand and connoisseur increase the duration of your food, and alchemy, medicinal use, reduces the it increases the length of time that a potion lasts to 45 seconds. From like 20 something, so like they last longer and their cooldowns less, so it's a really good trade-off there. Now, going over the skills, which again, this is a hybrid. This is not your atypical standard DPS. On the front bar, we are using Molten Whip. This is our first skill. This does really good damage. It also can set enemies off balance, and that's if they're immobile or stunned. But while slotted, your spell and weapon damage is increased by 101 for Ardent Flame abilities. So this ability and your Burning Embers are buffed by 101. Dual wield skill here, Rending Slashes. We're using Rending Slashes because it does good damage, higher damage up front, and a little bit more damage over time than Blood Craze. So that's really good. It also gives you a small CC. Then we have Burning Embers. As you can see, nice heavy dot there. Coming, 3,256 flame damage. But let me go ahead and buff up again, guys, so you guys can see the real tooltips of these. So, Flame Lash is coming in at almost 7k. It actually is 7,000. Then we have Raining Slashes, which is 2,298, which is coming in at almost 2,500. This is coming in at 35, which is actually almost 4k, and it does 12k damage over time. And it also heals you for 75% of the total damage inflicted. Then we have Deadly Cloak. Deadly Cloak is essential to this because it just does a lot of good damage over time. And it can also proc your enchants on live. So on live, this will help proc your dual enchants. And it does work on live. I have tested it. Moving on, we have Inner Light here for the Max Magicka. If you have the guild passive, Mages Guild Magicka Controller, this will boost your Max Magicka by 2%. So you're going to want to keep this there. So you have 5% from this, an extra 2% from the Magicka Controller. You get 7% more Magicka, and it gives you Major Prophecy. Now, moving on to the final ultimate here, we have Flawless Dawnbreaker. This is a given. This does good damage up front, good damage over time, and while slotted, your weapon damage is increased by 5%. Moving on to the back bar, we have Poison Injection. This is hands down one of the best dots for the bow in the game. Does good damage up front, good damage over time, and it's also considered an execute to some degree. The damage over time deals up to 260% more damage to enemies under 50% health. So, next, we have Endless Hail. We have this here because it does a lot of damage over time. It doesn't look like it right now because I'm not fully buffed up. But fully buffed up, we do about 1200 damage with this every second. And then moving on, we do have Engulfing Flames. And this is going to be our bread and butter to building the damage of this build. Because this does do 1,635 flame damage up front. And then 7,455 flame damage over 10 seconds. But afflicted enemies take 10% more damage from all fire damage attacks. So all the fire damage we do is boosted by 10%, which is really, really, really important here, guys, because this is where we're going to get our biggest boost of our fire damage besides being a Dark Elf. Moving on, we do use Igneous Weapon because we're not using a power pot to boost us with Major Sorcery and Major Brutality because there isn't one that does both. This is going to do that for us, and it lasts for 40 seconds. But while you have this active, whenever you activate it, you also get Mountain's Blessing, which also gives you Minor Brutality for 20 seconds, which increases your weapon damage by 10%. So you're actually getting a 30% increase in weapon damage, a 20% increase in sorcery, in your spell damage. So really good to have this up as much as possible. Like, if it gets down to the T of 19 seconds, where you're at 19 seconds, you're going to want to proc this. You're going to want to cast this again. So keep an eye on the timer. Excuse me. Next up, Inner Light again for the Max Magicka Major Prophecy. And then finally, we do have Standard of Might, which is a very powerful skill because it does 2,604 flame damage every 1 second for 17 seconds to enemies, and applying Major Defile to them, reducing their healing receipt and health recovery by 30%. While you're standing in it, though, it increases your damage done by 15%, and it reduces the damage you take by 15%. It's also really good synergy, so... Alright, so that is the skills. Now let's go ahead and jump into the CP, and this is where things get really weird. So, Red Tree, pretty standard, 81 Ironclad. This is going to give you reduced damage by 24% from direct damage. 1 into medium armor focus. Moving on over here, we have 56 into Thick Skin. This is going to reduce damage taken from damage over time effects by 20%. 66 into Hardy. This is going to reduce damage from physical poison and disease damage by 13%. And then 66 into Elemental Defender, reducing Flame Frost, Shock, and Magic damage by 13%. Nothing in this tree. Moving on to the green tree, we do have 56 into Warlord. This reduces your break free cost by 20%. We have 16 into Sprinter, reducing your sprint cost by 10%. This is where things get different because we have 43 into Mooncalf, increasing stam recovery by 10%, 43 into Arcanus, increasing magic recovery by 10%, and then 43 into Tenacity, increasing magic and stamina of your fully charged heavy attacks by 10%. Moving on over here, we have 28 Shadow Ward, reducing block cost by 12%, 40 into Tumbling, 16 reducing dodge roll cost by 16%. So we have like a 36% reduced dodge roll cost, and then 1 into Befoul. Moving on to the red tree, this is where things get different because we do have 56 into Elemental Expert. Remember, we are a Dark Elf, so all of our flame damage is being boosted by this. So we're getting not only 12%, but we also get a 7% for being a Dark Elf. We have a 19% fire damage increase. So all fire damage, that includes the sets, our skills, and then you add that extra 10% on there, and even our sets are boosted by. So Vulcan Score and the fire set, Way of Fire, are boosted by Engulfing Flames, which increases all fire damage by 10%. So we actually have a 37% increase in fire damage, pretty much. On top of that, we have 26 in the spell erosion. This gives us 2,388 spell pin. Now with a hybrid, because you have no extra spell pin. Now, if you're in a trial group, you can take the 28 points. Like if you're in a group that does trials, but you're not competitive, you're just completing trials, you do not need spell erosion or the penetration for physical. You can put those in other things. You can take 23 points and put in an Elfborn if you want. Going into the middle tree here, though, we do have 16 into physical weapon expert. This increases our light and heavy attacks with dual wield, all that by 10%, and then we have 40 into mastered arms. This increases your direct damage done with a direct damage tech by 16%. Now, here's the thing: if you are playing this build, do not put more than this into here, because this build is built on dot damage. It would be better if you took like 23 and 23 and put it in like 23 into here, and then over here you have 43 into this. Increase this to 56. Like if you're gonna take out of your piercing and this, put this up to 56, put this up to 40, leave this at 40. Everything else is fine. But we have 43 into mighty. This increases your physical, poison, disease damage by 10%. We do have 23 into precise strikes, increasing our critical damage and critical healing by 20% or 10%, and then 40 into mastered arm or into thaumaturge, sorry, increasing our damage done with damage over time effects by 16%. If you do take the 26 out of here, like I said, I'll just show you. Oh my god. Take this up to 56, and then whatever you have left out of that 13, you could put into here and take this up to like this, and then do this the same way. Like I said, you take this up to 23, because you're gonna have enough pin then, so you can actually go like this. And I think you can put these 5 in here, or so you'll have 1 point left over. You can put in into piercing or whatever. Point is that you're gonna need it, that extra damage. So, but because we're doing PTS, I have to use the Lover Mundus Stone, and the Lover is going to give me almost 4k pin. So, if I'm in a group, you need that both spell and magic of penetration. So either way you go, you can either go with the Lover Mundus Stone, or you can go with, really the Lover's the best one besides the Thief for this build. Because you don't want to use anything that's going to boost your weapon damage or spell damage. Now that I've shown you that, I'm going to go ahead and do a rotation. I want to make sure I'm fed, and then I have my potions ready. Alright, so this is a standard rotation, guys. I'm going to go over here and show you guys it on a real quick rundown, so you guys can see for yourself. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to start with buff, then Trap Beast, or sorry, Poison Injection, Endless Hail, and in between these, Light Attack, Engulfing Flames, Light Attack, Swap Bars, go into the Flame Lash, Light Attack, Twin Slashes, Light Attack, Burning Embers, Light Attack, and then do this. And when you do this, as soon as you pop that, Heavy Attack, Swap Bars, Poison Injection, Light Attack, Endless Hail, Light Attack, Engulfing Flames, Light Attack, Swap Bars, Whip, Light Attack, Twin Slashes, Light Attack, Engulfing Flames, Light Attack, pop your Blade Cloak again, then Heavy Attack. The reason you want a Heavy Attack before you pop that Blade Cloak, and the reason why you want to reapply Blade Cloak, is because every time you cast Blade Cloak, so every time you cast it, let me let it wear down some. So this is where you'll usually be recasting. Every time you recast it, it reapplies it. But it doesn't reapply the ticks off of the weapons, because they've already gone off recently. So, alright, but that's how it's done. I'll show you guys the rotation now. And whenever your potions are off cooldown, activate them. So, first off, buff, Poison Injection, Light Attack. Like I said, Oops, I did that wrong. Ooh, I double did that one. That's okay. And you can also do the little trick that Outcast does here, where you spam the Burning Embers instead as your rotation. And oh, I hit the key wrong that time. That was my bad. I'm making so many mistakes. I mean, you gotta skip this, by the way, the ultimate part. So, not my greatest. I have pulled higher damage. But like I said, you have to be really careful with the rotation. Like I said, 3,994 weapon damage. We do have 57% crit there. Here we have 2,762. Normally 2,652. We do have a 29% spell critical, so we don't crit that much, but it's more or less for the fiery weapon, Vulcan Scory, and Way of Fire. As you can see, they stayed up with Endless Hail almost in damage. We are not using a Maelstrom Bow on the back bar either. You could do that, and it would actually increase your DPS by a lot, but we still have really good DPS the way it is. The Way of Fire is rocking in at 5k. Vulcan Scory is dropping at 12 on its max average of 10,000 on the Vulcan Scory, 4,500 on the Way of Fire. The fiery weapon enchant is 6,773 with a 4,600 normally. And then when you go down here and you look at all the dots we have going on, it is nothing but dots mostly. We do have poison coming in from poison injection every once in a while, but not too much. Even our poison injection is coming in there kind of low, but you got to remember, our penetration is not at cap on this, guys. So my damage is only going to reflect what I can pull with the rotation and this much pen. So, but yeah, not too bad. Major Brutality, Major Sorcery were off a little bit. Minor Brutality was way off. I wasn't keeping it up 100% like I would like to. Let's see, debuffs. Engulfing Flames was up almost 100% of the time, which was really good, which was boosting our damage. So we had Burning up 49%, which was also really good. And as you can see, our drain versus our regen, like, it shows more drain than we had regen, but we could still sustain. So, but yeah, that, my friends, is a hybrid DK. If you want a name for it, it's called the Dragon's Fury. So I thought it sounded really good for this type of a build, and it does work out really well. It's really fun in dungeons. I have actually got to run it through a dungeon or two, and it works out pretty good. In dungeons, I had no sustain issues whatsoever, just like I had here, no sustain issues. Really good survivability, really good damage. You know, you don't have to do insane damage. In fact, for most trials, in fact, I would say almost all trials, 24k DPS is about where you need to be good, and you would easily break 24k with this. If you had a Maelstrom Bow, if I was running a Maelstrom Bow, I would definitely break that. But this was a build I put together without that in mind. But if you were running a Maelstrom Bow on the back bar, you would get greater damage, because the Maelstrom Bow would boost the damage on this by quite a bit, in fact. Let's see here. So Maelstrom Bow would actually increase every volley by 161 each tick. That's not correct. Yes, it is that. So yeah, but it increases the damage of your volley in this hail by more. So it's really good for that. But you wouldn't be able to proc the weapon damage, the fire damage on the back bar, and you need that crit on the back bar. So you need that major savagery on the back bar too. So you would have to give up the flame damage from this on the back bar. And then that way, the only time you'd be proccing your fire, the fire would be on the dual wield side, and you'd only proc it off of Twin Slashes and Deadly Cloak. You would not be able to fire it off with Endless Hail and Poison Injection. Or, yeah, so. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the Dragon's Fury. Hope you guys like it. If you do, hit that like button. If you guys want to see more builds by me, you can hit that subscribe button. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.